There is a massive movement happening within the longevity and aging landscape. It turns out there is much we can do to extend our lifespan and reverse the effects of aging. What we've been taught and led to believe about aging and human disease are now outdated and no longer accurate. That means it's time to change the current mainstream paradigm and have different kinds of conversations when it comes to our well-being. And it's time to recognize that we have the power within ourselves to dictate and drive our own health span and aging journey. Hi, I'm Suzaida Hippolito, host of Timeless Vitality, where we are redefining aging so we become truly timeless. There was a time in my life where I used to escape my life. And how did I escape my life? With drugs and alcohol, as many of us do. In hindsight, I realized I was a high-functioning party girl. I would work my six-figure corporate job during the week. Then on the weekends, I would go party. And for me, partying included cocaine, scotch and tequila, dancing, and staying up as long as I could. Fortunately, for me, my body had a low threshold for cocaine, meaning no matter how much cocaine I do, it would no longer give me that high, and I'd stop and call it a night. So I was lucky I didn't become a cocaine addict. However, when I found myself doing blow on a Wednesday night just hanging out with my boyfriend, I realized, holy shit, what am I doing? Fast forward to today, I cannot even imagine wanting to escape my life. And the last time I did cocaine was in February 2021. And a couple months later, I also stopped drinking alcohol. I absolutely am in love with my life, and I'm all about optimal health and wellness. Our very special speaker in this episode today is also all about optimal health and wellness. It excites me to introduce you all to English soap opera actress, best-selling author, entrepreneur, and biohacking superstar, Davinia Taylor. The British media refers to her as former party girl turned queen of biohacking because Davinia completely turned her party life around into a life of daily biohacking. With over 1 million followers on Instagram, she helps an ever confused population achieve genuine well-being. She also founded Will Powders, her own brand line of supplements. And one of the things I love about Davinia is she stands for giving power back to the people when it comes to their own well-being. And she does so with humor and unapologetic candor. Hi, Davinia. Now, I absolutely love your raw honesty. Thanks for joining us today.
Wow, what an introduction. Do you know what? I feel exhausted just listening to that. But to be honest, it's not that exhausting what I do. I have a lot of fun doing it. And by the way, congratulations on your sobriety. What an achievement. You're very lucky. Indeed, we are the lucky pair today. You know, we're very lucky because that relapse is only an arm's length away. So it's great to speak to somebody else who's sober. Fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm to the point where my body doesn't have any tendencies for that at all. Do you feel the same way?
It ebbs and flows. I've been sober now for like 15 years, but I tell you when I get triggered, and it's not in times of trauma, like when I've lost my mum, or I've gone through a custody battle, or I have been moving house, which I have done 10 times. It is, or divorce. It's not then that I am in a danger zone. It's when things are going good. And my little addictive brain goes, do you know what would make this even better? A little glass of rosé. And that's how devious the alcoholic brain is. So, I used to drink. I didn't drink to block out my life. I drank for energy, which we'll go into more details about the hormone dopamine in a bit later. But Yeah, so a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people associate addiction with trauma and awful things in your
Mm-hmm.
childhood, but actually it can
Yeah.
affect people from completely normal backgrounds just because of their how they were born with a certain brain chemistry, and it can lead them into dopamine enhancing substances. For me, it was never nicotine, it was never cocaine or anything, it was wine. Oh my goodness, if you took
Mm-hmm.
my wine off me, we have a major problem. So that was and a lot of mummies have mummy wine o'clock. And trust me, this stuff will creep up on you because it does mess with your neuro pathways. And the habitual form with that stuff is very dangerous. And as we know, there is no safe level of alcohol now. Even red
Mm-hmm.
wine, you'd have to drink gallons, I mean barrels full, to get the resveratrol that they claimed was heart healthy. There isn't. So, I mean, I always say to people, do you remember the hand sanitizer we put on our hands? Well, yeah, that's alcohol. Imagine drinking that and what your lovely little gut microbiome's doing, where all your happy hormones are made. Imagine that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you get a hangover and you feel depressed. You have just
Wow.
wiped out lovely little microbiome, little good friendly bacteria. You've just blasted them with that 1 or 2 or 3 glasses of wine. So
Mm-hmm.
I think the tide is turning on safe levels of alcohol because there are none. And, you know, it needs to be put out there because people get really confused and they think it's a treat. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a treat. And it's dangerous.
I'm really I'm really happy actually to hear you go there, and I want to dive into that. What you were talking about, alcohol and energy and dopamine and all the things.
Mm.
Before I get into that with you, I'd also like to go straight into your backstory because you've been through quite a hero's journey, and it's one of the things that you're recognized for. So tell us about your backstory.
Well, I mean, to be honest, I think we all have a bit of a hero's journey. Anyone who's made it, I'm 46 now. So anyone who's made it to 46, I guarantee we've earned our stripes to be walking this planet, and everyone deserves to have their story acknowledged because we've all lost parents or siblings or miscarriages or whatever happened. I just want to put it out there. I hear you too. This isn't just about me. It's just because I happened to be in the media at the time because I was an actor a million years ago, by the way. So what happened with me was in a physiological point of view, I was married pretty young. So I was like 23, kind of childhood sweetheart, completely inappropriate, totally different people, but we tried for 7 years, and we had I brought him down from a quieter city in the north of England down to the party capital of the world, which is London. Back in the 90s, it was absolutely insane, and there was a lot of attitude of I'll sleep when I'm dead. I know we had a thing called the ladette culture, so all the women kept up with men drinking. You know, Britain is booze Britain anyway, so being in London, you have the biggest parties and the biggest after parties going on 24/7. And unbeknownst to me, I have got ADHD. And I only figured this one out actually when one of my children showed symptoms and the school said we need to get him tested. And as I'm going through the checklist, I'm going, yeah, this is me. And all ADHD is it's a skill set, I call it, that means you're easily distracted because you're always seeking dopamine, which is your motivation, action, desire hormone. So roll back the clock 10,000 years, and people with ADHD would often be the hunter-gatherers because they see things in the periphery. They're very much risk takers, so they would climb over the next hill to go and find prey. So we've always had ADHD. But now it's just coming to the forefront that it's actually a skill set. So me as an entrepreneur or me as an actor, it's a skill set because I don't see risk as scary. I see it as, yeah, let's go, let's go. Whereas an accountant, totally different skill set. Paramedics, a lot of the time, paramedics, chefs, police officers, except when they have to do all the bureaucracy, huge risk takers. They're there in the action. They often have an ADHD brain. So we seek dopamine. And I didn't know this when I was like back in the day when I was drinking. It just made me feel aligned. As soon as I had a glass of wine, I had energy. I could think better. I could think straight. It's because my body wasn't bored. It had energy from dopamine not necessarily from the sugar that's in the alcohol, which is another addiction I had, but I didn't know. But anyway, this dopamine I was constantly seeking. Anyway, as I said, I was married pretty young. We tried for a baby for 7 years, couldn't get pregnant, so we went through IVF. And boom, first round, we got pregnant. Now then, what I didn't realize what was happening to me during all the IVF was all these artificial hormones being pumped into me, very high levels, and it obviously knocks you out of balance. I mean, it's a very invasive procedure with your inner thinking, your inner workings, you know. So we got pregnant, had my first son, and oh my God, the fear came in. I obviously didn't have any progesterone. I clearly had dropped off all my estrogen, obviously, because it was artificially raised and then it dropped down. And this is when, and I don't have dopamine naturally, which is very confidence building hormone. You know, you feel strong and determined with it. I was a shell of a person. So me learning what I'd learned through the 90s and early noughties was wine makes you feel complete. So I had my first glass of wine after I'd had my baby, like one evening when he'd gone to bed, after shaking with adrenaline, fear, like absolute terror that I was going to drop him or someone was going to kidnap him or there was a fire. The invasive thoughts were like out of no Hollywood movie. It was relentless. And then I found myself, and I'm like, where is this baby? This love, where's the oxytocin? There was none, because I was depleted in all my sex hormones. None to make it, nothing to make it. They also told me not to breastfeed because I couldn't latch on, so they didn't pursue that. They said, right, get him on the bottle, that's fine. They didn't pursue that. They didn't understand that might have boosted my oxytocin. However, I think my dopamine was so low, the prolactin would have been too high and it would have given me the fear, but that's a bit of biochemistry, you don't need to know. But I was terrified. So when I had that first glass of wine, dopamine went up and everything felt, I can do this.
Wow.
But of course, the wine wears off, the dopamine goes down even lower, and I need another glass. And the trouble is, as you're doing going up and down, the dopamine pathway, you're getting drunk. So there was nothing that, and by the way, not one doctor tested my hormones, knowing I'd gone through IVF. Not one doctor tested anything like my prolactin levels to see if they were too high, which is an indicator of low dopamine. Not one doctor did that. I got put on bipolar medication. I got stigmatized throughout the whole press, which is awful because for a new mother, you're terrified you're doing something wrong anyway. The press ruined me because I filed for divorce because I couldn't be with him anymore. I knew this was a wrong relationship. Somebody told me to run. He wasn't abusive. He was just wrong for me. And I was wrong for him. And to be honest, in a weird sense, it made me realize what I can and can't do. I can't fake this marriage anymore. I've got this child. And do you know what? I need to stop drinking, but I think it might kill me. So I was at this crossroads where I had to lean into something better. And it was my mum who said, okay, I think you need rehab. And that's where I went. And I had to relinquish custody of my son. And the press obviously made out that I was some sort of abusive mother when I just knew I needed to get sober to be a mum. And I've been sober since that day. But the pressure under women to be everything for everyone at every moment of the day, when we have the fluctuations in our hormones and the doctors know nothing about hormones, is phenomenal. It is cruel. And the whole hysterical woman and taking babies off women because they're hysterical is what is still happening today. And that's what I went through. And I know, not just me, that has happened to millions of women. And it happens again in the menopause because we're hysterical then. And there's two things that go on there. There's something going on with hormones. Maybe we should have a look at that and try and nurture that in a bioidentical way, rather than saying she's a danger to herself and to everyone else. Let's take everything away and that's the end of that. And we'll let the courts deal with it. And so that was my biggest trauma in my life. Obviously, I've lost my mum as well, which is horrific. But for me, that's what's still great. And it's not my ex-husband. It's not the alcoholism because it's led me to here. It's the institutions that I still have to work a program around, because it's the institutions that keep us suppressed and stop people getting better, because the fear is phenomenal. And, you know, I mean, just talking about the amount of women that get OCD and intrusive thoughts after having a baby, even without IVF, but they have to keep quiet because the baby will be taken off them. And something in them says, protect, 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 but they are terrified because they have a complete and utter hormonal shuddering, because they are thrown into this situation. There's no tribe anymore. You're at home. It's not like we used to be 100 years ago, where you'd have grandparents and sisters and cousins, and there'd be the nurturing tribe to look after the newborn. You are on your own with TV that's screaming. Like, we have Peppa Pig over here. I've had it for 4 kids now. It's the most annoying theme tune. But, you know, it's relentless. And we are isolated within our motherhood now. And I think that is why some of us have such adverse reactions, because we don't feel part of the tribe. And the connectivity of having a family is paramount to take away the fear of the monumental responsibility of what can go wrong. It just, I mean, it's a natural response. You're looking out for danger for your precious new bundle. But when you're on your own and you're looking out for danger and you're jumping and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this knife? We're like, am I going to fall? Is the knife going to fall? I mean, just insane thoughts while you're just cutting some bread. I mean, it's relentless as well. So I think there's a lot of work to do in society on helping new mothers connect. And I mean, it's like we all need to go off somewhere and go and sit in a forest together and, you know, just nurture this new mum, this precious new mum and this baby. And like, here's the wisdom, don't worry, this is how we breathe through it. This is, you know, as soon as you have a baby, you're out the hospital and they're like, thanks very much for your check, see you later. And you might want some antidepressants with that, which, by the way, they won't work and they'll make you very fat. So that was my trauma. That's where I came from. And I think it was getting sober was the first part for me to sort of become in touch with a power greater than myself. That is fabulous, because I need to be able to do that, to sort of call it manifestation, call it prayer, call it the placebo effect, call it quantum physics, whatever it is. There's an energy out there that's beyond our control. So you better hook onto it, name it something that you accept, and lean into it, because there's stuff going on in our bodies and in our surroundings that we can't comprehend or make sense of, and they're to your advantage. So that opened my world to spirituality, which then, when my next sort of addiction kicked in a few years later after my mother died of breast cancer, which was food, lots and lots of carbohydrates, all these cozy foods that you get, because of course I can't drink, but I didn't want to drink because I knew that was a death sentence for me. But I just couldn't shift this weight on one of these balanced diets that the doctors were telling me to have, all the whole grains, all the fruit, all the veg, all the lean meat, all the polyunsaturated fats, the veg oils, the canola oils, all that. I was just getting more and more hungry and very flatline mentally. So if I went to the supermarket, I'd have to park in the mother and baby space because it was next to the door. Otherwise, I'd just turn the car around and go home because I couldn't be bothered. And now I run marathons, you know. Now I run marathons. Now I think of every step as great. That's increasing my bone density. That's going to stop me from breaking my hip when I'm 80 and subsequently dying 6 months later. Because they're the statistics. And these are the things that drive us into an early grave. The fact we don't move properly. The fact we don't bounce around enough. The fact we don't just jump around. You know, we sit, we watch the TV, we watch our phones, we move from seat to seat, from car to car. And, you know, these are things that I'm hacking now as someone who's coming up for 47, so that I'm like 110 and I die in my sleep. You know, and I've had a good innings, and my kids love me, and I've been humorous and naughty all my life, and I drive my kids insane right to the end. And that's what I hope for myself, you know. And I think we have the technology and the insights, and now the intuition. Look at me talking to you over 1,000 miles, thousands of miles, sharing our collective knowledge on how we make this a fantastic journey. Every single day, even the most stressful days, you come out at the end of the day thinking, I've got a sense of achievement. I feel fabulous today because I figured that one out,
Yeah.
and I think resilience is my number one aim. I want to be resilient,
Mm,
physically, mentally, and spiritually resilient. And then, and quite frankly, I'm bulletproof in a chaotic world. So I don't know what you think
yeah.
about the word resilience. I think that's a goal in itself.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to, I mean, you talk about the fear. Much of our world is operating from fear, and because people are unaware, people are asleep, people are operating from a place um, of trauma, and fear. And okay, I want to ask you this world of biohacking. Can you define for us what is biohacking for people who are new to the biohacking world?
Okay, so I mean, I put it quite simply. You know how you have cleaning hacks? So, how to clean the kitchen like super easy, like with baking
Yes.
soda and stuff like that. So, it's like a fast track to do a job. And then think of bio as your biology. So, you're hacking into your biology. You're doing tweaks to your own personal biology so
Mm,
that you think smarter, you sleep deeper, you are more resilient, you're walking in faith, not fear. So that's something to do with
mm,
meditation. And you basically have a lean body mass without effort. You got strong muscle density without effort, bone density. I mean, your brain is clear, focused, optimistic. And
mm.
yeah, basically, and you can restore yourself every single night. And that's what
Wow.
biohacking is. It's optimizing your body, but your body, not my body, because I'm vibing with mine at the moment. But everyone's got a different N of one experiment to conduct.
Mm,
We are all different because what triggers me or stresses me or humors me might not humor you. So it's a pointless biohack for you. So, you've got to cherry, and that's what makes it exciting because you can have your own journey and no one can tell you you're wrong. No one can tell you you're
mm,
wrong because it's working for
mm,
you. And you can,
mm,
of course, you can do tons of tests. You can do your inflammatory markers. You can do all your blood tests you want. But then you've got to, if you feel great and you've got a snapshot in time, that's your blueprint to work for the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 50 years. And that's why I think
mm,
it's so interesting that we've got the wearable tech. We've got access to so much amazing science and insights into the ancient way of healing, Ayurveda, ancient Chinese medicine. We're beginning to understand that on a quantum physical aspect. And now the science community is going, oh yeah, maybe acupuncture's got something. I don't know, but maybe there is something in acupuncture after all. I'm like, no shit, Sherlock. They've only been practicing it for 10,000 years. Welcome. But, so now I think the worlds are sort of like beginning to meet, and there's a bit of acceptance as a crossover just because of people like
mm.
you and I be able to speak over borders. Like 50 years ago, we couldn't have made a phone call properly transatlantic without it being cut off. Never mind sharing memes and sharing ideas on diet and meditation techniques and binaural beats and, great walking tips. I mean, how to get from couch to 5K. I mean, it's all there for us to just cherry pick and take and thrive from. And most of it's
Mm,
free, you know?
mhm.
Daylight free.
Yeah, I love the perspective that you are sharing with our audience because it's definitely a very different way to start thinking about our health, to start thinking about our world, to start thinking about what what else could be available to us, what else is possible. And
Exactly. I mean, I met Bruce Lipton, who's a
I
PhD. In
love
fact, he's the
Bruce.
guy, you know Bruce, right?
I
So he
love
was the
Bruce.
one who sort of like discovered epigenetics, right? And he is
Mhm.
like crazy on quantum physics. And just listening to him and his sort of theories on love and how that builds resilience. I
Mm,
mean, that in
mhm.
itself is so empowering. As soon as people understand, if you can encapsulate love, you can fight off anything, any fear. And that's what I was lacking. I was lacking in when I had like postnatal depression. I was lacking in not only hormones, but I was lacking in any knowledge. I was left out to dry. I had no knowledge of what was going on. So there's your fear. What's next? Am I going to
Yeah.
die? I mean, there's an inner feeling I am not safe. I mean, and there's also an actual. There was no knowledge within the medical community. There was nowhere to go. I wasn't on Instagram then. I couldn't have this wisdom sent to me. The last thing I was going to do was pick up a Bruce Lipton book when I'm like tearing my hair out, trying to look for a bottle of wine because I'm absolutely terrified because I'm coming down off the last glass. I mean, this is where we need to help people. You know, it's phenomenal that we have all this information that's coming to the forefront, and people are going, "Hang on a minute, I question you, doctor. Don't you think this has got something a little bit more above your pay grade, like quantum physics?" Because that's all I'm ever going to say to my GP next time he says to me something about something's not right with me. I'm going to go, "Yes, quantum physics, it's above your pay grade." Don't gaslight me about the perimenopause. It's quantum.
Yeah.
So have that.
Well, and that's the thing. We don't, when we go to our practitioners in the West, according to the Western model of medicine, we don't think to really challenge them. We don't think there's, what else could be possible? And we don't have the sovereignty to be able to think beyond what we're being told, beyond what we know, what we've been taught with Western medicine.
Well, I mean, my answer to when people say to me, particularly doctors, "Well, you're not a doctor," and I'm like, "Well, you are, and you should be taking a look at the demographic around the population. There's 1 billion people obese. There's 1 billion people obese.
Yeah.
50% of the
It's
population
awful.
are going to die of cancer. The other 50 have got cardiovascular disease. Answer me that." And if someone says to me, I'm not a dietitian, I say, "Okay, last time I looked in our hospitals, I'd be ashamed to say I was a dietitian, because what you let past people in an oncology department, like cakes, croissants, toast, processed food, you should be ashamed of yourself."
So true. It's so true.
So I'm like, before you start getting all, "I'm a qualified doctor," can we just see what the result of that degree has done right now, just as a whole? Because right now I look at myself and I go against the grain. I've got a high saturated fat diet, high red meat diet, sort of a few vegetables, more for palate, more of a salad. I drink tons of organic coffee. I am really constantly in a state of ketosis. Any doctor in the UK would tell me I've got a fast track to cardiovascular disease. I'm like, okay, well, I just ran a marathon without stopping, no problem. When was the last marathon you did, doctor? I have virtually no I virtually have no glucose in my blood, and I operate pretty well. I've got 4 kids. I'm always doing washing. I'm always emptying the dishwasher. I'm always running around like a headless chicken. And do you know what? I thrive into it. And I run a successful business, but everyone here is happy, And if a doctor says to me, "Yeah, you need to reduce your fat," I'm going to go, "No," because I'm spinning plates, and that is a fuel that my body needs. Because guess what? I learned it the hard way that when I don't have hormones, I am in a bad pickle. So yeah, I think the rhetoric's got to change. I mean, there's so much conflict of interest anyway. There's so much conflict of interest in all the studies that they do. It's like, what's the point?
That's true.
You can have they'll throw studies at you after studies after you. One study will say Kellogg's is great, the other study will say it's not. I'm like, studies. Show me the studies. I don't want the studies. I've got an N of 1 study here, and I am doing A-okay. And I intend to live way past centenary, So yeah, I think you've got to be your own advocate and do what's right for you. We all know what ingredients are crap. You got your seed oils, get them out. You got your processed sugar, only get it from fruit. And you've got all your gums, emulsifiers, enumbers, get them out. Eat steak, eat veg if you want to at night, so you get a carb coma. Eat sourdough bread so it's fermented. Just take a look at the ingredients. Become au fait with a label. Know what's going in your body. It's not rocket science. And learn to intermittent fast with some MCT oil. It just takes the edge off. We're not talking about low calorie. We're talking about low chemical, and that will make any human being thrive.
Low chemical. I love how
Low
you say that.
chemical, count chemicals, not calories. God, we need calories to lighten
Yeah.
up, you know?
Yes, yes. Now, part of your journey, or you becoming this biohacking superstars, you've done a lot of research, including which you've debunked a lot of myths. And one myth that you've debunked is around fats, cholesterol. Can you
Yeah.
tell us about that?
Okay, so I think actually I'm good friends with a cardiologist called Asim Malhotra, and he was the one who did it. I mean, I'm no cardiologist. I'm obviously going to take a lead from someone who has done open heart surgery on thousands of occasions, rather than moi. I am humble enough to admit I can't do open heart surgery, but he was starting looking at the evidence that he was like dishing out statins. And there was even talk of putting it in the water, and we're still not seeing any results with cardiovascular disease. We're still getting it. We've got to drive cholesterol down. We've got to drive cholesterol down because people are still getting cardiovascular disease. And you're like, hang on, we have lowered everyone's cholesterol, yet we're still getting heart disease. And the answer is to lower it even further. I mean, but the body manufactures cholesterol naturally. The brain is made of cholesterol. I mean,
Mm.
every single hormone is manufactured from, guess what? Cholesterol. Why are we doing this? It's neuroprotective. We've got a spike in Alzheimer's. We've got a spike in cancer. Could it be the lack of cholesterol?
Oh my gosh.
Why are we investigating this?
Wow,
Fats,
right?
yeah,
Wow.
fats are
Wow.
extremely protective. However, I'll tell you what happened. Ansel Keys is cool name, by the way. Ansel Keys was a guy back in the 60s who decided he was going to demonize cholesterol as a running cause of heart disease, which was very, very, very rare before then, to be honest. And before the 1800s, before Procter and Gamble brought polyunsaturated fatty acids into the food chain, PUFAs, polyunsaturated fats, you know, heart healthy fats from vegetable oil,
Mm-hmm.
canola oil, sunflower oil. Those heart healthy fats had not been in our diet since the turn of the century, back in the 1900s, right? Because it was used as soap, and it still
Oh
is used as
gosh.
soap. Okay, so
Mm.
Procter and Gamble, brilliant company. I mean, look at the size of them. They found a way to process these veg oils and make a polyunsaturated fat that you could fry in and turn foods, well, crunchy, you know. And the thing is, Ansel Keys, at the same time that was becoming popular, Crisco, same time as that was becoming popular as a polyunsaturated fat that you could fry in, Ansel Keys did a study across countries across the globe. I think it was 20 countries, but he only, I think, I'll have to get this right, but I think he only used 7 in the study. He left out the remainders because they didn't fit with his rhetoric. And he had a graph pointing up that the more saturated fat you had, the more likely you were to get cardiovascular disease. Now, he left out a country called France, which if you
Mm.
don't know about the French and their cheese and their saturated fat obsession and their butter, they
Mm.
fry everything in du beurre,
Mm.
and everything is le fromage, the cheese. He left them out the equation because it seems
Wow.
that they didn't have much cardiovascular disease, but that didn't suit his rhetoric. Anyway, since Procter and Gamble are bringing in Crisco, and then he decided that actually it's saturated fat that raises dietary cholesterol, which actually causes plaque and heart disease. Boom! These two
Mm.
minds met. And then all of a sudden we've got polyunsaturated, heart-healthy fats on the market, cheaper by the way, much cheaper than butter and lard and beef dripping and olive oil or anything like that. We've got this highly processed veg oil that uses hexane, which is from petrol, gasoline, to process it, and it's
Oh my
bleached
gosh.
and deodorized. Then it gets into the food chain. And it's also like, if you look at margarine, it's like a molecule away from plastic. So it actually preserves the food so it doesn't go off. So it extends shelf life over all of Procter & Gamble's range of ready-to-go meals. You'll find sunflower oil, rapeseed oil, canola oil, cottonseed oil in everything that's on the shelf. You don't want that in your body, because to have a polyunsaturated fat in your body in excess means you're in trouble. You're going to get inflamed. Brilliant woman called Kate Shanahan. She blew the lid on it a few years ago. And the thing is with the polyunsaturated fatty acid, I mean, part of your cell is made of it, but because it's unsaturated, It means oxygen can get in, which is a good thing, because if you get injured or you get a virus or like, I don't know, you twist your wrist or something, those polyunsaturated fatty acids around each cell will suddenly get oxygen into them and they will explode. And then ambulances can come in. Your inflammatory markers can come in and go, oh, we've got an injury or we've got a virus. We're going to put it out. They're like little alarm signals, these polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, since Procter & Gamble and Ansel Keys put out this study, our consumption of polyunsaturated fatty acids has skyrocketed. Now, remember, it's good to have a few, but our body fat has gone from something like 3 to 5% polyunsaturated fatty acid to 25%.
Oh my
Up
gosh.
to maybe even more right now. Maybe it's more like 30 now. So if you can imagine, your fat is totally different to what it used to be maybe 50 years ago. And it's now unsaturated, which means it's loads of little, like ambulances, whizzing around, inflamed, pulling in cytokines.
Yeah.
You know, so you're inflamed. You're like, the
Yeah.
fat consistency is different. So if you're
And it's
inflamed, your body's on
years.
high alert. And this stuff crosses the blood-brain barrier, you know? This stuff will make you feel depressed because an inflamed brain is a depressed brain. And this shouldn't be in our food chain. And do you know what? The trouble is, it takes about 5 years to get it out of your body, we think.
Oh gosh.
So switch back to butter, grass-fed butter. Switch back to beef tallow. Switch back to coconut oil. Switch back to avocado oil. Make sure it's not been bastardized by rapeseed oil or canola oil to make it go further. Go to extra virgin olive oil. Make sure you check the harvest date, because after 6 to 12 months a harvest date, because otherwise then olive oil goes rancid. So, I mean, there's so many hacks that, you know, I've written about in my book, so you don't have to suddenly remember everything now. But it's just to put these ingredients on your radar to get them out your diet. And let's face it, canola oil doesn't even taste that good. It's not like sugar. You know, we're not going to miss it. So let's just do a trade. And the food companies will follow suit. As soon as we stop buying it, they'll change. You know, McDonald's used to cook in beef tallow, and now they cook in, biofuel, isn't it? Because when I see McDonald's go past me on the motorway, they're boasting, we run our lorries on biofuel that we fried your fries in. And you're like, hey, I'm going to give my kids biofuel. Okay. But anyway, well done you. Well done, environmentally friendly. I mean, God, it's a mad world, isn't it? It's
Oh my gosh. I just
wanted to give you some context on those hateful 8 oils and how they can warp your body, but most of all, your brain. And they're addicting as well, so get them out. That's my enemy number 1 is that, rather than sugar. Sugar you can get rid of in your body within about an hour, and then you can start lowering your insulin response. But this oil is like, it feels like it's radioactive to me. We need to get it out of the food chain.
Yeah, it's a major culprit. And I love how you really simplified that and made the knowledge like very accessible and so basic around the way that we as a society created this myth, fully embraced it, and then made a full business, you know, made lots of profits around it around the world, and created basically a super unhealthy human population.
And the trouble
That's
is,
just one thing.
That's just one. But the trouble is that there was a study that I actually believe that says it takes 17 years for a claim or an experiment or a theory or a proven hypothesis to get from lab, so from bench to bedside, i.e. to a general practice. 17 years. So when people come at me and say there is nothing wrong with vegetable oil, that we've got no studies to prove it, and I'm like, if you think I'm wasting 17 years for you to come around and go, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, that was bad, you've got another thing coming, because it took you 20 years to say sugar was bad. And we've got teeth literally falling out kids' mouths. So I'm sorry if I'm sounding impatient, but I'm not hanging around for you guys to get your act together and decide who's sponsoring what. Because to be honest, I've got one life on this planet, and I'm not going to live it fatigued, bored, bloated, overweight, underwhelmed, and probably not to to that dizzy heights that I am currently enjoying now as being a mom, being healthy, being multitasking, being chaotic.
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's great. It's like being optimistic. I'm not going to let
Yeah.
Big Food, Big Pharma take that off me while I wait
Yeah.
for a bloody study to tell me I was right. No
Well, you're
thanks.
such a model. You're such a model for that. You're like, that is a very disruptive way of thinking because our society is like, show me, prove it to me, show me the research. And to your point, we waste years in researching.
Decades. Decades.
It's money wasted. Meanwhile, people are getting sicker and sicker. People are dying. And this brings me to another point that I know you wanted to talk about. Liver flush. You wanted to
Yeah,
talk to the
I just
audience about
thought,
liver flush.
yeah, because I think so many of us, this was way, way back before even biohacking was around. And it was after I had number four. I've got four boys. I number them. I know it sounds terrible, but it gives you an idea of who I'm talking about and where I was in my life. So number four, that's Jude. He's coming up for 9 now. So I came across a lovely, lovely lady in London, and I was saying, God, I feel so sluggish, and I hadn't looked into supplements or anything. I said, you know, I don't even drink. It's not fair. I feel really hungover. I've been put on all sorts of antidepressants at that time, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, it's just the toxic load. Never, oh, never did I think my liver was connected to my brain, because we don't think like that in the West. We actually think we've got different departments. I mean, even hospitals are like that. You certainly won't get the pathology talking to the neurology, talking to the oncology. Oh my God, different departments, different floors, they're not connected whatsoever. I mean, this is how dysfunctional we all are. So when she advised me to do a traditional liver flush, which is kind of simple, very cheap, what you do is it's just like over 24 hours. So you get up in the morning and you kind of going to fast for the whole day, which for me was like, oh my God, because I was a chronic overeater at that point, chronic overeater of carbohydrates. And I just didn't understand. I didn't understand how to tap into my hunger hormones and silence them. But anyway, that's in my book anyway, how you do that. But so what I did was a liver flush. So you get up in the morning, you must have done one, and you have like about 500 centiliters of fresh apple juice, and then you have lots of chamomile tea throughout the day, and then about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you have some edible Epsom salts, which are disgusting, and you drink it down with warm water, and you go to the toilet, and then you do the same again an hour later. And then the worst bit, you drink like about 800 milliliters of extra virgin olive oil mixed with the juice of 5 grapefruits, and you down it, and oh my God, you just have to go to bed. I mean, I took some melatonin just to make sure I didn't wake up. And then in the morning, when you go to the loo, it's like all these sort of green pellets come out. Now, there's of course people say, oh, I don't know if it's just the olive oil. I don't know if it has got anything to do with kidney or liver. Whatever, I don't care, because after I'd done that, I'd done it for 3 months, once a month. And on the third time, something shifted with me psychologically. I sat there I'd finished going to the loo, excuse the graphic, I finished going to the loo about 10 o'clock the following morning. You know, I've been on and off the loo, so I'd stayed in the house, the toilet or the bathroom, I don't know what you guys call it. So I've been to the bathroom, like on and off from about 6 in the morning till 10 o'clock in the morning, and I was looking after my little one. And all of a sudden, there was a lift, like an energy, a lightness. Even my vision went brighter. I got optimistic. I wasn't high. I was just like, hey, life's okay. And it was then that I thought, hang on, I just hacked into something then. And then, of course, biohacking. Then I'm like a ninja on Google. And all of a sudden I thought, I have actual control over my mental health by what I put in my mouth and what passes through my system. Of course it does. Look what alcohol did to me. If I can have something that takes, I can have something that gives in equal abundance. So I was like, oh my God, I've been wasting my time for ages, eating low-cal food and doing this, doing that, putting medications. The answer's there. The answer's there, and it's an ancient, I mean, it's fascinating what we can do, but we're not exposed to, because it's just not the norm. But it will be. My kids will think it's
Yes.
normal. My kids will think, your kids will
Yes.
think it's normal. Your friends' kids will think it's normal because this is what we do. We pass on the
Right.
wisdom, you know? We are
Right.
like
Right.
the witches now that can pass it on. The witches that all got bloody burned. All that knowledge
Right.
disappeared because the men were scared of us. This is what we're now waking up. You know,
We're
call
bringing
it
it back to the
witchcraft. I just
mainstream.
call it wisdom. Yeah, bring it back to the mainstream because why not? And it's virtually free as long as you've got some olive oil. It's free. Come on.
Yeah. Wow, wow. Thank you for that. I'm really glad you shared that because what a holistic and natural way to detox your body. And you experienced a profound shift in your own physiology
Yeah.
right away. It didn't take days, it didn't take weeks. It was 3 days you did that.
No, I just did it over one night. So just
Over one night. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
24 hours.
So,
But I did it over 3 months. So I obviously had a
okay.
pretty congested liver because of all the antidepressants I've been on. They put me on bipolar
Mm.
medication. For the love of God, I'm not
Oh,
bipolar. I'm just
yeah.
undernourished. I'm just undernourished.
Yeah.
You
You
know, I
had
just
to
didn't have
flush all
access
of that
to
out.
the. So we've flushed all, and not to mention all the seed
Yeah.
oil, all the sugar, all the carbohydrates, you know, all the bloody croissants, the endless croissants. Oh my God, croissant craving. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
insane, you know. So yeah, that was pretty. That
Yeah.
was an aha moment for me.
Yeah.
Mm.
And for our viewers, I know you're hearing Davinia and all the ways in which she's speaking about what she had done to her body, like what she, the alcohol, the foods, the alcohol that was bad, the foods that were bad, the medications that were bad.
Mm.
And uh, and it can hearing this might have you feel like, oh my god, I wonder what's going on with my body. Oh my god, how long, if I start doing this, excuse me, how long is it going to take for me to get well? And that can introduce like another level of fear because now you're becoming aware of, wow, this all this stuff, all this toxic stuff is in my body. Like, don't be scared. Like, don't
No,
be scared. Like, be
no.
excited that there is actually a way, and you will get there one step at a time, just like
Well, I
Davinia
mean, you
has.
can feel better instantly by you just jump in a cold shower. You're going to boost your dopamine. That's free. A cold shower.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you get the top of the back of your neck. I mean, that's free. That's pretty common knowledge now. You boost dopamine by
Yeah.
200%. It lasts for hours. That you can step into immediately. You know,
Perfect.
and I mean, and then you can maybe do some breath work. I mean, I'm a big fan of Wim Hof, the ice guy, because
Mm-hmm.
he's got a great app. Again, I think he gives you about 3 guided instructions for free, and he will
Mm-hmm.
talk you through how to sort of almost like hyperventilate, hold your breath, and trust
Yeah.
me, the feeling of serotonin. You do 3 rounds of that, and
Mm.
the feeling of serotonin will come over you.
Yeah.
It will bring down the cortisol response. That's instantaneous.
Beautiful.
15 minutes, man. 15 minutes, and it'll
Beautiful.
change the trajectory of your
Beautiful.
day. But
Yes.
I do have a book which I wanted to give away for free, but
Mm.
because we're in England, it's going to be like the Kindle. But we have to pay like 99 cents to get over the border, and it's all this admin which I really can't deal with, so I offload that. But my publisher said that you can have the book for 99 cents. It's called "It's Not a Diet" because it's not a diet. All these little things I go into a bit more detail, but my book is written in a way that I am not. God, I'm no author, you know. I speak like a real person and I have real experiences in there. And all the information I'm giving you is in that book, including a 2-week reset on how to come off the carbohydrates, start to get yourself fat fueled, because fat lasts a lot
Mm.
longer than glucose in the brain. So you're not going to be a slave to these processed foods, because we're a slave to them. And yeah, I want to give that to you guys for the month of April. So it's called "It's Not a Diet." It was a #1
Yeah.
Sunday Times bestseller in the UK. Thousands of women have come up to me and gone, "Oh my God, you've changed my life. It's an aha moment. I'm sat here on the sun lounger on holiday crying because you get it." And
Mm.
that's where I just threw all my completely N of 1 experiment, self-experiment in there. And guess what? Tens and tens of thousands of women felt exactly the same. So it's not N of 1. I mean, that
Wow.
is a study,
Yeah.
you know, that is a study, because women are
Yeah.
too complicated. Remember, we're complicated creatures that I'm afraid science can't figure out, so we've got to figure out ourselves. But I'd
Mm-hmm.
like to give that book away, and I think it can really shed a light on where to begin, how to unpeel the layer.
Yes.
Because, I mean, we're living in an evolutionary mismatch. So if you're feeling less than, it's not your fault. We were just born in the wrong time, in the wrong society.
Yeah.
So don't worry, we can adapt through different technologies and different biohacks. You'll soon suddenly go, do you know what? I am living my best life. And it starts with knowledge. So that's why I wrote the book, Empowerment.
Yes. Thank you for that. What a beautiful gift. And the link to access that will be in the show notes. Now, since we're here talking about timeless vitality and redefining what it means to age and become timeless, could you kind of tie it all back, tie biohacking all back to longevity and
Yeah.
aging and becoming timeless?
Yeah, so for me, it's about taking out the inflammatory ingredients. 101, it's vegetable oil and seed oil. Keep olive oil in, but make sure it's good quality. Butter, keep it in, make sure it's grass fed. Get rid of those seed oils. They're driving up inflammation, which is one of the biggest drivers of all diseases. Get your insulin under control. Stop spiking it with carbohydrates, even if they're whole grain, even if they're organic. Get the oats out. Get all these grains out. Get them out. All they do is turn into sugar as soon as you mix it with saliva. Insulin and insulin resistance is the biggest driver of cancer, the biggest driver of heart disease, the biggest driver of Alzheimer's, which is now being coined type 3 diabetes. Get that out. If you're going to have sugar, have it in the form of honey, have it in the form of fruit. I use stevia. I think it's I've got a sweet tooth, man. I was born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, partied in the 90s. I have a sweet tooth. So I use stevia. It doesn't spike your insulin at all. It keeps it stable. I think it's from a leaf. Make sure you get it from a stevia leaf. There's loads and loads of companies that sell stevia. So those three should help you hack around what you eat. And when you get that energy and you start getting fat, when you start swapping out croissants or granola in the morning and you start having MCT oil or MCT powder in your tea and your coffee, you're going to turn on your receptors in your brain. This is 101. You need to start getting your brain fueled with ketones, not glucose. And all of a sudden you'll want to
Wow.
walk. And that is the biggest longevity trick, walking. And if you can
Wow.
walk with a bit of a backpack on, it's going to increase the load, which is going to be great for your bone density, great for your muscle building, great for your flexibility. Just
Love it.
walk, man. Just walk up and down the stairs, walk to work, just walk around. Get a dog. Get a dog.
Yeah.
Then you've got to walk.
Just
But
move
that for me,
around.
you've got all these amazing HIIT classes and all these yoga and all this hot yoga, cold yoga, ice yoga, whatever. Just walk. Just walk. It's going to save your life. So that's my advice on longevity.
Amazing. I love it. Now, there's three questions that I ask all my speakers. And the first question is, what is your number one life hack for promoting your own longevity?
I have a little pop-up sauna, which I keep next to the bed. So when I come in from work, I've got the kids from school, we've had dinner, so we have carbohydrates at night. I am ketogenic throughout the day, and then I enjoy carbohydrates at night. So carbohydrates get you sleepy, right? Ketones keep
Mm-hmm.
you lively. So I have
Mm.
MCT oil in my tea, my coffee. I have protein with MCT in it throughout the day. And I keep my ketone levels pretty high. Ketosis, Google it. It's a fascinating science. But then when it's like evening time, we have the sourdough bread, we have the root vegetables, we have organic beef, we sit around together, we have a massive row, blah, blah, blah. That's what
Mm.
massive families do. And then after I've like tidied up the kitchen, my husband will carry on playing with the kids. I will go upstairs and I will get into my pop-up infrared sauna and I will put Netflix on and I will sit there and I will switch off. And that is my glass of wine. And the great thing about an infrared sauna is it's just up to your neck. It's not one of these snazzy like units. I literally have it next to my bed with my TV, and I know most spiritualists and biohackers will say, don't have a TV in the bedroom. It's my safe space. And I love binge watching
Mm.
Netflix. That's my sin.
Mm.
And I sit there, and as the infrared, unlike a normal sauna, which heats up the skin and you heat up from the air, infrared heats you up through light penetration. So it penetrates the skin, gets into the organs. Remember, the liver, as that detoxes, your mood improves, because we learned that through the liver flush. And that's the great thing about infrared. It gets into the organs.
Wow.
So all the stress of the day, the traffic, the emails from school, the tax bill, the parking bill, all that stress is in my liver, and I want
Yeah.
to detox it. So I do
Mm.
that with the infrared sauna, watching some mindless,
Mm.
ridiculous Netflix series I'm into or addicted to.
Yeah.
And I do 40 minutes of that, and I chase that with a cold shower. And then I get a load of
Mm.
magnesium. Magnesium glycinate is the best for relaxing. I have that before I go to bed. Earplugs in because my husband snores.
So
Eye
good.
mask on because it sometimes gets too light in the Northern Hemisphere in the UK. And windows open, cool bedroom, bed. That is my ultimate biohack, because sleep 101 is how you remain healthy.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So, so complete, so thorough, so intentional, like so well formulated. Okay,
Oh, but it's
second
taken years.
question.
Trust me, it's taken years. It's taken
Yeah,
years to
that's
figure that one out. Like,
I
years.
get that. Yeah, you're your own experiment. Okay, the second question is, where do you see the future of longevity headed?
Oh, well, like I mentioned about Bruce Lipton before, I think it's going to start getting into the field of energy. And like
Mm,
anyone who's spiritual knows, there is an energetic force around our environment, people. And I think that over the next few decades is where we're going to see science place all of its coffers. It's going to be in
mm.
energy fields, and how we can heal cancer, how we can heal neurological problems, and how we can, even injuries, how we can heal that with quantum physics. That's where I think it's
Oh,
going. That's
I love
that. Like
it.
I said, that's above my pay grade. But there's loads of scientists doing it right now. So I think that's where it's going to end up. The solution will be there.
And then the final question is, what thought or act takes you back to a childlike, playful state?
Okay, so I really enjoyed partying when I was younger. I used to run out, I'd climb out the bedroom and everything. I was a nightmare,
Mhm.
nightmare, nightmare. Like I said, ADHD, I'm high risk. I was seeking dopamine. So I used to love going to nightclubs and listening to 90s house music that all came over from Detroit and came to my local city of Manchester, which back then was called Manchester. So I used to sneak out, and I still, when I run now, I still get the goosebumps and the euphoric recall from being a 15-year-old in a cool nightclub, just starry eyed, like, look at everyone having a great time as the house music scene was kicking off with these amazing DJs. And I really shouldn't have been there, but I'm a risk taker. I love it. So I
Mm.
still get goosebumps, and the flashbacks are fantastic. I mean, I would never take. I mean,
Um,
it led me to a dark place, but oh my god, those primitive, those years, marking 95. My god, I would
yeah.
the best time ever. And I still
Yeah.
listen to house music now. My husband thinks I'm
Yeah.
an absolute idiot and I need to grow up. And never. I'm never growing up. I have arrested development. I'm still
Yeah.
15.
I love that. Oh, Davinia, this was epic. Thank you for this very, very candid conversation and bringing us back to what it really truly means to be human and regain our power for to achieve, as you say, genuine well-being.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm going to have to come and see you and give you a cuddle and hang out with
Yes,
you properly. But
I
thanks
would
for
love
having me.
that. Thank
Great.
you.
Thanks
All
for
right,
having me.
everyone. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I have, and we'll see you all next time. Mwah.